Well, here I am again. What's going on, YouTube Nation? I'm the Coffee Bean GM. This is day 15 of the RPG A Day Challenge. I'm trying my best to get caught back up. And this is probably going to be the last video I do of this series, because I'm actually headed out on vacation. Going to go out to the beach and hang out with the family and stuff. So I'm going to have to catch up on the other 4 or 5 videos when I get back next Monday. So until then, consider this the last one for the time bomb. So, day 15, the question was, what RPG do I like most for adapting? So, I've brought this up quite a few times, and it's sort of I'm a little, well, there you go, Shadow Demon Lord. I know, I've said it before, I brought it up several times in some of the other videos. It is by far my favorite system to run, to play, and I just love the horror aspects of it and the fantasy aspects of it. It's a great system in and of itself. So, why? That's the more important part here. So, I know that most people out there probably are going to pick D&D 5e or D&D in general for this question. 5th edition D&D is great for, the rules are so streamlined, so straight, and easy to deal with, that it's really a simple system to adapt, to change, to add into, to take things out of, and to tweak to your fitting. The Dungeon Master Guide has tons of cool ideas in it. But, myself personally, even though I like the system, I don't play D&D 5e a whole lot. And I don't like to change that system. I run it rules as written, raw. I'll take some stuff out of the Dungeon Master's Guide and use stuff in there as I need to. But I really have absolutely no interest in adapting 5e. I love helping people out that are working on stuff. I have a couple friends that work on modules and things and supplements. I'll give them ideas and thoughts and stuff. But for me, it's a game that, while very well balanced, I always find that if I try to come up with a class, for example, or I try to come up with some spells and stuff like that, it's very difficult for me to balance them with what's already there. Maybe it's because I don't play the system enough to know it in and out as much as I do with Shadow the Demon Lord, but for whatever reason, while I know most people would say 5e is easily adaptable, for me, it's not. I just have a difficult time and stuff doesn't balance well. As for Shadow the Demon Lord, I've read this book so many times. I've played it. I've ran it. I'm so familiar with the system that for me, coming up with a class, coming up with an adventure, coming up with something, and changing the rules and adapting them and fluctuating them, is something I'm pretty decent at, and I know what I'm looking for, and I know what to do. I know the balances, so it comes a little more naturally to me. As it sits, I've ran a bunch of games in it, but a couple come to mind. Whereas, I ran one that's called Stop Eating My Sister. It was basically just a group of goblins. I cut huge sections of the rules out, added in some different roll tables, added in some different mechanics, gave each goblin that was sort of like a pre-generated goblins, each one different abilities that were balanced out with what the others had. So and it was a completely, the people who played in it, they knew it was Shadow the Demon Lord. It used the same system, but it played nothing like the actual game did. Right now, as it is, I am doing one called Hunger Rising, which is pretty much a straight-up rules as written game. I didn't really adapt anything much for that, but next month, I'm going to be running Mad Max. It's going to be using what's called the Godless setting here. This is also Shadow the Demon Lord, but I'm heavily basing it on Mad Max Fury Road, or all the Mad Maxes, really. And I'm coming up with custom classes, custom paths and ancestries for that game. Some different monsters, vehicle rules. And the Godless has, and so does Shadow Demon Lord itself, has vehicle rules, but I wasn't a big fan of them. They're not bad, but I wanted to streamline them, make them rules light, and focus more on the story in this case. And, it's really, I sat down the other day and did things, and I have absolutely no problem adapting the rules, changing them around to fit what I want. Come next year, probably January, February, I'm going to be running a science fiction horror mini-series, all based kind of like Event Horizon, and probably what I'm going to be drawn from because it's such a great movie. But I'm going to be, once again, taking the basic rules of Shadow the Demon Lord, putting in new paths and new ancestries, new abilities and spells, and building a sci-fi setting. and for this mini series that I'm going to run. So for me, it's Shadow of the Demon Lord. It for whatever reason that game just speaks to me. I'm able to manipulate it, change it, and do what I want with it, and still keep everything pretty much balanced and in line. So it's kind of strange too, because for D&D 5e, I guess if you're looking at it as adapting to different genres, maybe, then I pretty much always run 5e in a very different, strange style. I ran the Spelljammer, even though there's no Spelljammer setting for it out yet. And I ran a Spelljammer setting. It's actually going to be a 3-part series. The first one, all the characters were Skrull, and they had their ship that they were able to get. They escaped from a Neogi hive mind. Went through sort of a cube dungeon puzzle thingy. Ended up taking over the Neogi Overlord, or the Galaxy Mind as it's called, and did that. And then they're going to be ushering in a new era. In my next setup, or in the next part for that series, the characters are going to be all playing Mind Flayers. So I'm not changing any of the rules, not changing any of the systems, all the classes, everything is the same. And there's actually an Illithid or Mind Flayer race that I found that we're going to be using. So, but I adapted the world around them into something different. And I did the same thing with Hell Awaits, which was one that was ran in Hell. I added in some corruption rules and insanity rules, but oddly enough, I ripped them right out of Shadow of the Demon Lord because they kind of plunked into 5e quite easily. So, when I run D&D 5e, I never mess with the rules, really, or the mechanics, because I'm not comfortable with them in that way. But I always change the world and the fluff and something, just because I find myself getting bored of the same basic fantasy setting. So, the game I like most to adapt, Shadow of the Demon Lord, by pretty much hands down. So, you guys have a great one. Keep rolling those D20s.